Hello and welcome to episode 476 of the Daily Sales Message Podcast, where every single day, sorry as I swallowed, took a sip of my drink before I started recording because I'm a true professional like that. Every single day I share a piece of simple and actionable advice that's designed to help you feel more confident and sell more stuff too. Now in today's episode, we're talking about VS. VS meaning, of course, versus. This versus that. All about comparison. Do you have in your social media posts, on your website, in your marketing, in your communications, how you stack up versus the competition? So versus the other people that do what you do, but also the other alternatives. And this is what catches people out. And I use this kind of weird example, but it gets the point across. If I'm looking at a coffee machine, fancy whizzy pod coffee machine, I can choose between all the fancy whizzy pod coffee machines, but I also might just decide to get a really fancy kettle and a cafetiere and make coffee that way. Now the cafetiere and the kettle option are less obvious because you think if I'm in the market for a coffee machine, a pod coffee machine, I'm probably only going to be weighing up the pros and cons between those, but it might not always be the case. I might decide to go for a really fancy kettle and a cafetiere and do that rather than have to pay for expensive pods, etc. So for most businesses, they don't have this comparison there where it's this is us versus the competition, the direct competition. This is us versus the other things that you could do. So if you don't have that, I would encourage you to think about that, visualize it if you can. You can create what I call a defensive model where we can take a couple of characteristics of these things and use those to compare and standardize the comparison across. But however you do it, make sure you have something there. Because trust me, your buyer is not just deciding amongst the coffee pod machines. In the back of their mind, they're also thinking, maybe I'll just get a kettle and a cafetiere and it'll be easier. And if you're not ready for answering that question, then you may lose them as a buyer as a result. Right, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Tomorrow in episode 477, I'm talking about the simple shift, the one simple shift you can make to create a clear sales message or to add clarity to the messaging that you're using. We'll cover that in tomorrow's episode. In the meantime, if you haven't already, please hop on over to LinkedIn. Connect with me there. You'll find me, James Newell, Clear Sales Message. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you like about the podcast and anything you want me to cover in a future episode. I'm going to calm down and talk more slowly now. Thank you for listening or watching all the way to the end. I do appreciate it. I'll catch you tomorrow for a deliberately more slow talking edition of the Daily Sales Message.